Hello, everybody. My name is Zerduku, and normally I would be doing a reaction video of Shoe on Head, but instead I found this other video that, frankly, kind of broke me a little bit. It kind of like gave me like a memory of something I felt before once. It was a while back. Well, actually, first thing you guys need to know, I do enjoy watching like paranormal stuff, like paranormal documentary stuff. There was this one TV show, but I cannot fucking find it and cannot remember the name of the show. Honestly, at that point, it kind of does make me think that I probably hallucinated the whole thing, but probably not really, because I don't suffer from hallucinations. So but regardless, there was this one episode where it was about a person that when he was younger, he was put into like a church cult. And in that particular episode, he talked about his experiences. Uh, and one of the experiences he had is that the church people, even before he knew he was gay, the church kind of somehow knew, and they did a bunch of like torture stuff to him. And at the end of the episode, he finds out he is gay. And what happened to me when I was watching that, uh, through like not only hating the church but also hating the person who was telling the story, made me feel like there was no hope in the world. There was no good. And that's what this video reminded me of, is that feeling of like there's no purpose in life. There's nothing good to achieve. Your life is meaningless. It means nothing. You're better off dead. That was the feeling I felt, and hopefully I can get through this reaction without getting too low. But if I do crash out, I'll end the video and I'll upload whatever footage I have, since I don't know how to edit videos, as you guys know. So let's do this. What the fuck was that? I swear to God. I don't know why I'm so retarded and always click on the wrong thing.
Since this is the last day of Pride Month, I decided I should go over every logical argument on why being gay is bad and destroy them. This series is
Okay, so first of all, one thing I forgot to mention right off the bat, and this is very important, and this is the reason why I decided to watch this video before doing a recording, is that often I always wanted to approach somebody from the LGBT community and ask them like a ton of questions, because logically speaking, I feel like being gay and lesbian is not mentally healthy. It's I feel like it's a bad thing, but rather than just, you know, crucifying them or just being mad at them, I just have a ton of questions and I want to understand why they make these choices. Now, I understand it's under the umbrella of, oh, you're not going to accept this, you're just going to ask a bunch of stupid questions. But that's the thing of like being logical and understanding and trying to learn to understand what is causing this. And yes, it is. I'm making it sound like this is a problem that needs to be solved, but that's not necessarily the case per se. Although I am trying to understand that, is this a problem? Is this something that we need to solve? Is this a dangerous thing that we should be aware of? Is this like, how is this going to affect us? And like how it does feel bad, and to me, but if you, as an LGBT community person, can talk me down to it and tell me that it's not a bad thing, then I'm willing to sit down and listen. So this is why I decided to sit down and listen to this guy. But however, in real life, I've been trying to approach those people, and oftentimes they just turn around and act like I had the plague or something. because they are afraid of talking about it for some reason. But here we got some guy who's talking on the YouTube, which is not talking to another person, but at least he's rhetorically talking to giving people the opportunity to, people like me with the logic and understanding who wants to see if this is a problem and how we can solve it and things like that. So to me, this is like a video candy. I couldn't really help but listen. But like I said, this eventually did start to break me. But let's see if I can get through it.
It's going to be a two-parter. The first one is for the lesbians, gays, and bisexuals, while the second one would be for trans people, as they usually have different arguments against them. Now, you
Okay.
might be wondering why I only included logical arguments. For one, I'm not too immersed in Bible lore, but for two, religious
To be fair, neither am I. I don't believe in God. But I do believe in the understanding that Mother Nature has its, laws that we really shouldn't mess with, and that's the reason why I'm kind of against it. But let's see what else you have to tell
arguments
me.
pretty much boil down to either. Actually, in verse 7, chapter 12 of my 3,000-year-old book, it says yada yada yada, or it's just one of these arguments rewritten to be a bit more.
Yeah, like here's something Bible people should understand. The reason why a lot of people don't take the Bible seriously is because the Bible has been rewritten several times, and it's because of people with different agendas. But that's an entirely different topic, so back to the video.
Mystical. Anyways, these are the main logical arguments I collected from browsing the internet and just existing as a queer man. Obviously,
Ugh.
there's more of them out
Okay.
there, but from what I've
Okay, I do apologize for giving you the but
seen, these are the most common, and they also hold up to logical scrutiny the best. Let me clarify, they hold up to scrutiny the best, not that they hold up at all.
Oh, really? Well, let's find out.
The most common argument I've heard is that homosexuality is unnatural, therefore it is
Yeah, I was told that.
bad and gay. Now, this argument has been beaten like a dead horse already, but let's quickly go over it.
Okay.
There are 1,500 species of documented same-sex relationships.
Yeah, but here's the thing that you need to understand is that humans and frogs are two different types of animals. So it doesn't work with frogs and birds. So we're gonna throw those out the window. Apes, cats, pigs, mice, rabbits, those are understandable comparisons because we humans follow under the mammals for one, and we share traits with some of the animals that I uh mentioned. And the reason why I know this is because rabbits, mice, guinea pigs have all been tested for like human medications and stuff because of the fact that they have, similar traits, and it's to do with, their ability to understand what's happening or something like that. They have a little bit of self awareness, not as much as us, but they have some.
And interestingly enough, it's more common in primates, so the apple doesn't fall too far.
Wait, hey, hold on. Let me drink my milk here. So let me get this straight. It's more common in primates, where supposedly wait, primates. Because I know there's a difference between apes and monkeys. Actually, no, primates is apes. I'm pretty darn sure. I'm almost certain of that. My knowledge and research is not fantastic. I'm just going with this with my opinion. Yeah, so anybody can disagree with me if they want. I mean, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with having a conversation as long as I don't crash out on you guys. I suffer from severe depression, but regardless, um, it makes me wonder. Is also I did some comments before, and I've probably already asked these questions in that particular comment. But is this a mental thing that's particular with apes? If so, that means that this is what I've always thought it was, which is a mental disease. And it also, if it's not just a mental, I also think it's not just a mental. There's not only the idea of just a mental disease, but also the idea it could be something that's wrong with our brains. is that, it could be like a malfunction because in our neurons that's in our brains. And if that's the case, then it can be fixed and it is a problem. But, that those are my questions. And I was kind of hoping he would answer that, but I don't think that actually came to
from
be.
the tree. The funny thing is, when homophobes get told that, they'll turn around and say, oh, but animals eating their babies is natural too. Should that be allowed as well?
You know, I'm sorry, but whoever did that argument is a bad argument right there, just because one doesn't have to do with that. This has nothing to do with that at all. Although I will say that if it's a compulsion issue, then I could see the kind of point, but it's not a very strong point at the end of the day.
I mean, heterosexuality is also natural, so where do we go from here? Should we ban heterosexuality as well? Obviously, no, because this can be explained by the naturalistic fallacy, where just
Okay.
because something is natural doesn't make it good, and just because something is unnatural doesn't make it bad.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there, bro, because I get what you're getting at, and technically you're right. But have you ever understood the understanding of not only Dr. Frankenstein, but also the understanding of like the 1950s monster movies, where they always, make movies about, how radiation creates monsters or people messing around with genetics and stuff, creating monsters that ultimately kill people. It's that same kind of concept of like medical science is going way too far with this, and I feel like messing around with our genitalia could come back and bite us in the ass. And I think that's what they're trying to get at, is that this could come out and kill us because we need the ability to procreate. And if we cannot procreate, then our race is going to go bye bye. We're going to age to death, basically. Our we are all going to die of old age and we will not have any children to pass on genetics and we're dead. And an extinction will happen.
For instance, most people agree that modern, artificially made medicine is good. Most people. And
That's
most
true.
people agree that cancer is bad despite it being a naturally occurring disease. The point is, people who say homosexuality is unnatural, therefore it is bad, is just factually wrong. And
Yeah, I already
even
said my
if,
piece on
even
that.
if only humans exhibit gay behaviors, they would still be wrong as being not
I want
natural.
to check to see if I'm recording. Okay, guys. I'm just sometimes I forget to press the button because it's my stupidity, my autism. For a second there, I thought it was like we already did an hour and we didn't.
Doesn't mean good or
12
bad.
minutes.
Moving on, another common argument is that if we tolerate gay marriage, then is underage or incest marriage going to be next? Now, this is a weird argument from bigots because I thought you guys want that to happen. Well, regardless, this is just a slippery slope fallacy, and it's not even a good one. To expand on this, what is similar about these two couples?
Mhm.
Firstly, they're both humans, they're both adults, they're both consenting, and they're not related by blood. Child marriage involves one of them being a child and is unable to consent. Bestiality involves one of them being an animal and also unable to consent. And incest involves one of them being related by blood with dubious ability to consent.
Okay, so I agree with him. This is the one thing that I have to say I totally agree. Now, the whole idea of young relationships is an entirely different topic, and there's no reason to dive into that gigantic can of worms for this video. Let's just focus on gays, lesbians, and bisexuals for this video.
All these relationships are missing one or more criteria of a safe and equal relationship. It's also interesting that these arguments were once used in banning interracial marriages, something to think about mayhaps. The third
Not really.
argument is admittedly a little bit religious, but it goes something like this: God or evolution gave you the ability to produce children,
Uh
so
huh.
you shouldn't waste your purpose. I mean, that's not even a homophobic argument. If anything, shouldn't that apply far more to straight people? And it's just a dumb argument.
I don't get your logic because the thing is, um, hang on. I'm gonna go back on this. What the fuck?
So you shouldn't waste your purpose.
I can't. What happened? Oh, I pressed a button. I didn't mean to do that.
A little bit religious, but it goes something like this: God or evolution gave you the ability to produce children, so you shouldn't waste your purpose. I mean,
Okay.
that's not even a homophobic argument. If anything, shouldn't that apply far more to straight people? And it's
I don't understand.
just a dumb argument in general, because nature has given us a lot of abilities that
Yeah,
99% of people just let go to waste. For instance, did you know that
true.
humans have some of the best long distance running ability out of all animals because of our ability to sweat? And because of the
Yeah.
way our bodies are balanced, as well as our hip and shoulder mobility, we are the best
Mhm.
at throwing shit really hard at things. So, by this argument, if you're not a professional marathon
Can I just point out something that I know he's looking over because because and he probably in his mind has nothing to do with the other, but we have the ability to sweat. We have good running and good throwing ish things. And what do apes do not have? They don't run well. They can run decently. Well, not the same as humans, but um, they can't throw very well. They have short legs, so it makes me wonder: uh, are humans really related to apes at all? Because it, the there's something about the look and our genetics that just doesn't quite match. Is what I'm trying to point out.
runner or javelin thrower, you're just wasting your purpose, I guess. The fourth argument is that if everyone were gay, no one can give birth, thus humanity
True.
would end.
That's my biggest problem right there.
Ignoring the fact that gay people can give birth,
What are you talking about? I'm gonna go back on that.
the fourth argument is that if everyone were gay, no one can give birth, thus humanity would end. Ignoring the fact
Ways to become a pregnant if you are LGBT. There are. I'm not very good at reading this. There are several ways you could become pregnant if you get pregnant impregnated. You can whatever by having sex is not option for you. Possible ways to become pregnant includes don donor. So basically, don't sperm. That's debatable. I use including. I don't understand what this is. I have no idea what that word is. God damn, my reading sucks. And for or for I don't know what that word is. I don't even know. I don't understand. Okay, so I sent a message to Shoonhead to review this video, and if you're watching this video there, Shu, please read this to me because my reading sucks ass. It really is terrible. I hate not being able to read.
that gay people can give birth, honestly, that's a really good argument. I spent hours trying to debunk this, but I just can't. Which is why I decided that every doctor should be imprisoned. Because if everyone is a doctor, there would be no farmers to produce food, and we would all starve to death.
I do not understand your logic.
Therefore, every doctor should be sent to jail for trying to destroy society. One argument related to that is being gay means you can't continue your bloodline.
That's true.
Which is true if you ignore the fact that gay people can give birth, gay
That's
people can have
bullshit.
siblings, a gay person might be infertile,
Bullshit.
so it wouldn't even matter anyways. And that argument applies to straight people as well. It's also just not.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, I don't understand. Like, listen, if a straight person gives a straight person passes on their child to a woman, their genetics is passed on in some sort of way. And the thing about that is it may not be the next the obviously the child you have or the child they might have will probably might have your personalities might it is a gamble, like it really is the roll of the dice, but it is a very important thing in our evolution that we need to keep, because here's the thing about that I was told, but you can debunk this if you want. I was told that if you gain a skill or something through your experiences, that becomes part of your genetics. And that genetics can be passed down from generation to generation. And that's what I've been told. Now, you can debunk this if you want, and I'll be all ears listening for it. But for now, continue
A
on.
good argument. Like, listen, bro, you are not living in Westeros. Your bloodline isn't special. You're not Robert Baratheon. Stop.
Um, I guess that depends on what you believe in. Like, for me, I got a great imagination and a really good have really good great stories. And the reason why I wanted to pass down my generation is because my genetics is because hopefully they will gain a artist like genetic where they have might have similar opinions and have similar ideas, and that way, even if I can't finish my work within my lifetime, someone they could pick it up for me and finish it. Enough
Stop
said.
it. And it raises the question sure, you continue the bloodline, but what if your kids don't want to? What then?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's say hypothetically, and this is definitely hypothetical because I don't have children. Hell, I've never been with a girl in my entire life, so whatever. Uh, if I had a boy, and by the time they reach like teenage rebellious area, and they decide to cut their balls off and give themselves a girl's name, yeah, not only would I disown the child, but I probably would commit suicide because that would be that would hurt a lot. I'm not gonna lie, that would be very, very painful. I think this is what made me crash out because I was thinking about that possibility, and that's a very big possibility because when children get into like the rebellious teenage era, you never know what they're gonna do.
Are you going to disown them, force them to give birth? Like, there's not much long term thinking here. And counter argument saying, my bloodline ends with me is very cool, so consider that.
Right.
Speaking of children, another argument that homophobes have is homosexual parents are bad. Their kids will grow up to be miserable and gay themselves. Now, this argument has not only been scientifically proven wrong, but
Okay, now I have some questions here. Now, first of all, I'm gonna tell you right now that I honestly don't know if any of this is remotely true with at least that concept. But I will tell you that if you expose a child to a gay or like a gay or lesbian like family, if they grow up with that family, they probably are going to think for the longest time that's how love actually works, and it's going to be implanted in their head, and that's going to be with them for a while. And another thing I would like to point out about all this document stuff that he's pulling up, which is probably like the textbook or whatever for different things. I don't know where it's from, but I do know this, and this is something I learned with dealing with therapy textbooks. A lot of that is done by people with agendas, and people with agendas are going to have like a lot of like what's the word, where they're going to be completely biased towards whatever it is they tell, and therefore it becomes false documentation. But the problem with that is that you cannot disprove that it's false documentation because it's done with somebody with like master degrees and stuff. They just don't know that they had a an agenda or a a biased feeling. But yeah, I
a lot of
digress.
even LGBT allies themselves sugarcoat the actual findings of these studies. And that's the fact that not only are LGBT parents just as good as straight parents, but they are in fact even better. And yes, a large part of that is because LGBT parents generally adopt or give birth to their kids when they are financially stable enough to do so.
Yeah, just okay. Technically, you're right on this. Just because of like, they usually wait until they have the money to do so. So technically, you're right. But also, it should be noted. I have to ask the question: how long can you adopt? Because people can continue to adopt because eventually the amount of children in the world is gonna go away because there's a massive decline of like births, and I think whether he likes to believe it or not is due to the LGBT community. They're largely done by that, but it's also done by our governments too. On the other hand, of making children too expensive. So we got two different things that are causing the same status effect, and we have these two problems. And yeah, it's going to require a lot of time and different solutions in order to solve these problems. But what? Just back to the video.
Making them richer. And outside of trans couples, it's impossible for homosexual parents to accidentally have a child. So there's also the fact that every child a gay parent wants is intentional. But even when these external factors are considered, such as economic standing, education, and environment,
Hmm.
LGBT parents still have better outcomes for their kids. Looking at the column 1, without taking any variables into account, kids raised by same sex parents do 0.106 standard deviations better than average. And in column 5, when the variables are roughly matched, they do even better at 0.147 standard deviations
I don't know
higher.
what this.
And did you know that 40% of homeless youth are LGBT? And that LGBT kids are 120% more likely to end up homeless compared to hetero kids. So if every child were to be raised by LGBT couples, that would reduce almost 40% of homeless kids out there in the street.
He has a point. I'll agree. Yeah, he has a point. But honestly, I think that thing is that might disappears. Like I said about the lack of children being
Also,
born.
it's funny
But
that homophobes never argue for banning single parents for having kids, because there is definitely evidence that children of single parents are worse off compared to two parents. Now, I don't want to stop single people from having kids, don't get me wrong, but it is weird that homophobes focus on the group that has the best outcome for kids instead of the group that has the worst. And there's also fear that kids with queer parents will end up queer
I have no information and no opinion on this, so I'm just gonna keep
themselves.
going.
Well, if that's true, who cares? Unless you think being queer is a bad thing. I mean, if you do, I hope you change your mind after this video. But that aside, the existence of LGBT people throughout history is a
Huh? Hmm. So it's been going on for years. That I didn't know. Hmm. But it does bring up some questions. Is this a mental issue that's been going on for years? But why is it so much more powerful now than back then? Because is it because back then it was scrutinized? And now that it's not, it's growing out of control. Is that what's going on? Hmm. I don't know. And I really wish I had the answers.
direct contradiction to that argument. Because if the sexuality of the parents determines the sexuality of the child, we would all be straight. Won't somebody please think of the children? The party that wants to bring back child labor says. This argument is also pretty malicious, as it's generally not stated to be outright homophobic. I mean, it is, but at first glance, it doesn't seem too overt. It usually goes something like this: I don't mind gay people, but not in front of the kids. Or, I don't care what you do in bed, but leave the kids out of it. And
Yeah.
it's just someone wearing a pride pin. This is particularly funny when you consider how freaky straight people can be. I guess to them, adult stuff around kids is fine as long as it's hetero.
And like, yeah, well, listen, if you make it normalized that straight is a normal thing, then you don't have to worry about the gay and lesbian communities growing. But if you make it normalized for gay and lesbians being in the community, they're gonna think that being gay is normal. And if they think that, they're gonna be gay. End of discussion at that point. And Not really. Actually, I need to go on with that because you have to understand that the children are our future. So if they start, becoming gay or lesbian, then that trend is going to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow over time until the entire planet is gay and lesbian or, transgender. It doesn't matter. At that point, we'll be facing a extinction level event, and there might be no way to stop it once it gets that far. And that's the thing that scares me to death, honestly, because that means that in the future, there are no humans. We're just going to fade away into existence.
It's just massively hypocritical. And the amount of kids' media that shows heterosexuality and how freely heterosexual adults can talk about
Okay, here's the thing. Okay, I'm going to go back on this.
to them adult stuff around kids is fine as long as it's hetero is just massively hypocritical. And the amount of kids' media that shows heterosexuality and how freely heterosexual adults can talk about their quote unquote sexuality around kids doesn't raise an eyebrow.
Okay, listen to me about this one. This was the norm back in the day, but the LGBT community has been infecting media when gay and lesbian couples, Jesus, and yet again, it's showing things that we really should not be showing our children.
But a woman says she has a wife once and now she's a predator. Make it make sense. Being
What?
quote sexuality around kids doesn't raise an eyebrow. But a woman says she has a wife once and now she's a predator. Make it make sense. Being
I don't understand the
LGBT
logic
is
there.
trendy is one of the more recent arguments I've heard. And from a glance, it is weird how everyone is LGBT all of a sudden, right? Like, look at this graph. Isn't that concerning? Listen, the explanation is really simple. As society progresses, the discriminatory laws around being queer and the general perception of being LGBT improves. Queer people can safely be visibly queer, which makes it look like there's a sudden increase in the LGBT population.
I disagree with that completely. I think because that we're accepting it, more and more of that is going to grow out of control, which is basically the same thing of what he's saying, but complete opposite. Because he's saying that in the past, people have been hiding it, which I'm not going to lie, that might be a possibility. But even if they were hiding it, it does not explain why it was lower in the olden days. To see it explode like this is terrifying. Look at this. That's a hell of a jump.
When they've been there this whole time. It's
That's
just now
not.
that they aren't afraid of being visible or less afraid. We're still far from perfect, even now. And for those who aren't satisfied with that answer, look at this graph for left handed people, which shows a similar trend. And I know someone's gonna say, oh, but the increase in the LGBT population is far greater. See? That's proof this is a trend. If you just think about it for a second, there's another obvious explanation. While there's definitely prejudice against being left handed, don't get me wrong, I think it's fair to say that the prejudice people have against the LGBT is far.
One thing doesn't have nothing to do with the other. I'm genuinely confused. And how is this? Wow. How is this considered evil? How's right hand being? I don't. Or left hand. Yeah, I don't know. I can't really digest it in my brain because it makes literally no sense. And also, just because, yeah, but the thing is, with people with a left hand and right hand stuff, people, it's balanced. It never actually grew out of control, as far as I know.
Greater. For instance, correct me if I'm mistaken, but there aren't any laws stating left handed people can be legally murdered. There are for gay and trans people, so of course the increase is going to be much greater.
Well, actually, hold on a bit on that. Because yeah, back in the day, gay and lesbian people were crucified, and I do not condone that. That's just wrong. But I guess that would make sense in a way, because if you kill them off, it makes sure that they don't get out of control. But that just means that instead of like resorting to violence, maybe we should, you know, help these people not to be gay, because like I said, it could be just a mental issue. And if we learn more about the human brain, maybe we can actually rewire their brains so it doesn't have that problem of seeing like the same sex and being attracted to it. Because there's obviously something going wrong inside the brain that's doing that. And because it's happening mostly with apes, makes me think that it is a brain malfunction of some sort, but we don't know what it is because we don't understand how the brain works.
Also,
At least not
even if
fully.
becoming LGBT has become trendy, why is that a problem, anyways? It's really only a problem if you think being queer is bad in the first place. So it's not even
You know why we don't like the idea of, it's not just because it's bad and people think it's bad, but because it is becoming trendy, more and more people are going to agree with it, and if it gets too agreeable, then it grows out of control. And yet again, planet of gays and lesbians equals extinction. We That's what scares a lot of people.
an argument if used alone. Now, this argument is one of the oldest and has also been beaten like a dead horse already. But I actually hate the way people respond to the being gay is just a choice argument. Because people, even well intentioned allies, will usually say you are born gay. And
Yeah, I actually am kind of not entirely sure if it's a choice or it's something that you're supposedly born with. But at the end of the day, though, you can choose to fight against, the things that are in your head. You know what I mean. Have you guys ever watched the Iron Giant? The Iron Giant was built to be a weapon of mass destruction, but at the end of the day, he chose peace over violence. So if someone who's built to be a psychopath of like war and destruction can choose peace instead of violence, then a gay person can choose not to be gay.
while that is true for some people, it does throw bisexual people like me under the bus. Because bisexuals do have a choice of dating the opposite gender. And for the bisexuals who currently have same
Yeah,
sex partners,
this is what pissed me off.
they should what? Just disappear? I think the real retort for
Being gay is just a choice.
the choice argument is so what? So what if it's a choice? That doesn't explain why it's a bad thing. A couple of these arguments are similar in that respect.
Well, okay, to be fair, saying it's just a choice isn't a bad thing, but what we're trying to get at isn't that, choosing to be gay is necessarily bad. It's just that we don't like the fact that people are making a dangerous choice. Like, okay, so look at it like this: if a person wants to jump off the bridge, uh yeah, it's basically the same thing as that, because if you're gay, that means you have no future. You have like no children to live on, which means you're going to die of old age and be forgotten. And which is, it's basically almost the same as committing suicide almost. And that's why we don't like it.
Like the LGBT trend argument, the choice argument, the kids will grow up gay argument. All of these are non arguments. In a vacuum, there is nothing negative about these things.
Oh my god, this guy is blind and retarded! And I should not be yelling because it's like 7:30. It's late. And I'm in an apartment building. Oh my god, this guy is so blind and stupid. He has no. This is one of the things I hate about the LGBT community, is they do not understand the concept of consequences. And
Like, replace LGBT with,
don't crash
I don't
out.
know, milkshakes. Drinking milkshakes is just a choice. Drinking milkshakes are trendy now, or kids who grow up in a milkshake drinking household.
But drinking a but drinking milkshake is like it's not it doesn't have any super lasting consequences as far as I know. Well, actually, it might because drinking too much milkshakes could be over. Yeah, but yeah, but still, um, actually, if you drink a bunch of milkshakes around a bunch of children, they would want to drink milkshakes. So, yeah, in a way, it becomes trendy.
Will
So he's
drink
wrong about
milkshakes
that.
when they grow up. Like, without all the other anti LGBT arguments, these phrases are meaningless. And considering that all the other
They're only meaningless because they don't have the same kind of effect as the problem. Well, at least not a similar effect. And except for the last one, maybe, because the thing is, okay, I went down when I was going shopping with somebody who was like older than me. They told me about an older chocolate milk mix they used to drink when they were younger, and I had no idea what they were talking about. But I grew up on like Nesquik and Yoo-Hoo, so I went to go buy Nesquik, and here I am like 30 something, and that's something that I used to drink when I was younger. It's something that I grew up with and I enjoyed. So it is something that, it became part of my life. So
homophobic arguments don't hold water in the first place, I guess they kind of are. And for my lesbian viewers out there, don't worry, I got your back. Because a common argument against lesbians specifically is that they have a higher intimate partner violence rate, or IPV, compared to hetero women.
I
So
have
this fact originates from a
I have no idea if this is true or not. So I'm just gonna let the video play and have him try to cook something that I have no idea.
2010 CDC study on IPV, and from a quick glance, it does appear to be true.
Hmm.
Lesbians experience 44% of IPV, while hetero women experience only 35%. So,
Huh.
boom, case closed, right? Yuri is now illegal. But like every homophobic argument before, it quickly falls apart when you do more than just a quick glance. Firstly, in a lesbian relationship, there are two lesbians. Shocking, I know. But in a heterosexual relationship, there's a woman and a man. I think you're starting to see where I'm going with this.
No, I don't.
If lesbian A or lesbian B gets abused, they both get put into one category. However, if a hetero woman gets abused, she gets put in one category, while the man gets put in another. So we're
Yeah.
comparing the statistics of both people in a lesbian relationship versus one person in a hetero relationship. This diagram looks so unhinged, by the way. Getting back on track, in order for this comparison to be fair, we need to take into account the abuse heterosexual men experience, both in this video and in real life
Uh
too,
huh.
I hope. By doing that, lesbians still have a 44% IPV chance, while a heterosexual person would have a 64% IPV chance.
Okay.
Now, not only is 64 a bigger number than 44, there's
Yeah.
more. Because of the patriarchy, heteronormativity, and all that other stuff, it's pretty common for a lesbian to be in a relationship with a man before she figures herself out. So, how much does this impact the data? Well, from the same study, two-thirds of lesbians experience IPV exclusively by another woman. Therefore, the actual IPV rate of a lesbian by another woman is 30%. Remember, this data says the lifetime abuse from an intimate partner. It never states a gender, but the fact that bisexual isn't separated to male and female partners makes it clear that this data shows the lifetime abuse rate from an
I
intimate partner of any gender. I hope this myth can finally go away, but I doubt it.
I don't understand what he's getting at. And even if so, I don't really know anything about this to begin with, so I can't argue with it because I know nothing about it. Like I know zero about the whole like lesbian violence thing that he's talking about. I have heard that there is a lot of straight relationships that don't go very well, but there is an increase of like toxic women out there for some reason. But that's an entirely different thing, I think. But that I don't know. It's just this whole thing is weird and it makes no sense.
Gay men still have the lowest IPV rate though, so I guess they're just built different. Another argument that I'm guessing used to be a lot stronger, but now has aged pretty terribly, is that a small amount of people are LGBT. So why should we care about them? Maybe back then, when the LGBT population was only 2 to 3%, this argument looks better, but now with estimates
Why'd
moving
you
from
even bring up
10%
this argument? That argument is old, so that's retarded.
to as high as 20%, yeah, it just doesn't hold. But even if the LGBT population is only 3%, I like to believe that people are adaptable and are good enough at multitasking to accommodate more than just the majority.
Well, actually, it might have been 3% then, but I guarantee you that it has increased to either 20 to 30%, maybe. Uh, Actually, you know what? Scratch that. At this point, it's probably 50% now, but that makes it all the more scarier if you think about it.
We could do it with people who require wheelchairs or people who are blind, and those are far less in numbers compared to LGBT people. And it's not like LGBT people need special accommodation, anyways. Bro, we just want the same rights as you, and not to be called slurs. Is that
I understand that you guys don't want to be called slurs. That's fine. It's just that we, for me in particular, what I don't want is I don't want to see our future get ruined by this LGBTQ garbage, because if it if it gets out of control where the entire planet is like this, like I said, extinction is coming next. And it the worst part about it is that we won't know that it's happening to us until it's probably too late, because it's going to be an age factor. It's not going to end in violence. We're just going to slowly over time fade away into nothingness.
really too much to ask for? So, yeah, that's all the arguments that I have gathered and debunked, I hope. I can only be optimistic that I at least convince one homophobe out there to, at the minimum, start questioning their beliefs. I'll also put some of my sources in the description if I remember to. Well, that's the end of the video.
Yeah, I probably, yeah. Well, if he did, I take a look. Okay, so he did put the sources in here. But because that I'm bad at reading, I am not going to look into this. I probably will leave it to somebody who actually can read, because that would be wiser for me. And okay, so for that particular person who made that video, if you really want to change my mind, this isn't going to cut it. You're going to have to, we're going to have to sit down and have like maybe a 20-hour conversation over it, because this is a big can of worms, and I feel like this whole thing, this whole gays and lesbian thing, is very, very dangerous, and we really should not be promoting this or whatever. So, anyways, please like and subscribe, and this is Zerduku signing out.